Yeah. Ms. Shobha De, Sheila Rawal, Additional DG Mr. Deven Bharti, Advocate Raja Thakre, Advocate Roni Salian, Advocate Nitin Pradhan, and all the ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I have also gone through the book. By and large, I have covered it. And I must say, Sheila is a gutsy woman. I mean, she goes into the areas where many people would not like to tread. And she always struck me whenever she met me when I was in office, that someone was over enthusiastic and trying to sort of get into very dangerous zones at times. And I always used to hate her because she always outdid us. You know, when Chota Rajan was shot at Bangkok, and I was planning to send my team, and I found that Sheila was already there. She went, I think, on 18th of September,
Yes.
and I was able to send my team only in October. Of course, I had to take permission. I had to go to the Government of India and take approvals and all that. But then she was there, and she had a meeting with Chota Rajan. She was able to meet, and whenever she wrote her interviews with Chota Shakil, I was wondering whether she is really talking to this fellow. And I would sometimes feel that she was taking too much a risk. You know, it's a very dangerous job. For a policeman, you have got a lot of protection because you are a policeman. But for journalists, it is quite at times a tricky job. But she wouldn't care. And but then, as she has written in the book, she used to write, and we used to discuss. This lady is in touch with Chota Shakil, she is in touch with Dawood Ibrahim, and all that kind of a thing. And then Bharat Shah's case came, when the diamond merchant Bharat Shah, my Joint Commissioner of Crime Shivanandan, caught him talking with Chota Shakil on telephone. And then he came to me next morning and he said, "Sir, just listen to this." And I said, "Here you are," because we were fighting this organized crime and the underworld, which has become really a big menace for the city. And so I said, we had, in fact, when I took over the charge as the Commissioner of Police, and the media asked me, what is going to be your priority? And I said, the one and the only priority, I am going to go after all these fellows. And we started in the right earnest. And when I said, see, Chota Mota fellows who were the foot soldiers of all these gangs who used to go and shoot people at the orders coming from somewhere, they were being accounted for. I said, now go after the fellows who are really helping them, protecting them, financing them. And when Bharat Shah's name came, you know, on the radar, I said, register a case. And then you can imagine what we must have all gone through. He had many friends in high positions. I learned that he was a very important person, very influential person, but whatever it may be. We said we are going to book him, and we filed the charge sheet. But the problem before us was, Bharat Shah was talking to Chota Shakil. Chota Shakil's number is known to the police. Bharat Shah's number was not known to us. We were covering the number of Chota Shakil. Bharat Shah just came on the radar. But how to prove that the person he is talking to is really Chota Shakil? We didn't know his voice. What did he look like, or what? He went very early, followed his leader. Then he said, Sheila Rawal, call her in the witness box. She is the one who has been talking to Chota Shakil, and she can prove that this is Chota Shakil's voice, and that will fix Bharat Shah nicely. I know I was feeling a little sorry for her, that we are exposing her a little too much, and that also being a lady. But then I said, well, I think she is a very brave lady, and she won't mind. She has said just now how she felt about it, but she stood the test and she supported us. And I must now publicly acknowledge and express my gratitude to you and thank you. Let me tell you, it's not always that people come to help the police. It's a very difficult job, and I don't blame the people. You know, coming and stating before, you see, in the open court against a gangster, a dangerous gangster, or a terrorist, everybody cannot sort of have that kind of a courage. But she stood and she supported. Another lady who supported us in our fight against the underworld in Mumbai is Preeti Jinta. You said that you were going to invite her, and I would have thanked her also. She stood in the witness box. She was also threatened. She received a threat from the underworld, and so they would not like to have police bodyguard and all that. But when it came to coming in the witness box, they will all shy away. But she said, no, I will come. She went and she supported our this thing, and she said, yes, I did receive a phone call, I did receive a threat, and I did receive it from so and so. I'm sorry to say, Shah Rukh Khan also had received some threat, and when his turn came to go into the witness box, I started getting phone calls from so many important people, you know, from Delhi and Mumbai, that please give him police protection and all that. I said, I will give him police protection, but I hope he will stand by his own complaint. I gave him police protection. I'm sorry, the gentleman went in the witness box. He said, no, I didn't hear anything. He didn't support. You know, this is what happens. The fight against the underworld is not everybody's sort of. So, you see, one who really comes and supports, takes a stand and be firm, really deserves all the plaudits and all the encouragement and all the credit. And Sheila Rawal is one of them. She has obviously worked very hard in writing, collecting all this material and writing this book. And I sent her a message when she invited me. I said, this book, I hope, will become an important reference book for everybody, including the police. You see, when I was, and I am glad that it is going to be a good reference book. When I was Joint Commissioner here in '93, and we were investigating the '93 serial blast case, after I had finished the charge sheet, and then that is the time when we started our fight against we started taking the underworld in a frontal manner. And we didn't have enough background material on the organized crime and underworld. Officers came, and when they moved out, they took away all the experience and all the knowledge that they had about the crime. So I attempted a report, and I called it The Growth of Our Underworld Gangs in Mumbai City. Sheila has made a reference of that called it a comprehensive report. And see, so that was one. Now you have covered the ground right up to 30th of October 2015. Remarkable. She writes about the incidents of Yaqub Memon's hanging and Chota Razan's surrender. It comes right up to 30th of October, so it is very latest, very fresh, and I'm sure it is going to be of a great reference importance to the police officers also, because there is a lot of material which is. Now, I was just thinking, you have written about all the gangs, which are more or less contemporary gangs, and gang formations, you see, they keep changing their equations. You never know who is for whom, really speaking, you know. So it's a very, very slippery area. What kind of a person is this Dawood Ibrahim? Let us really, I mean, he has obviously the son of a police havaldar who was born in some chawl or somewhere, some dingy area, and a school dropout. But he is a genius. And there could be another study, Sheila, of something about this man. Open up his brain and find out how a man who was born in Dongri area, now I think Hussain Jaidi has written a book, From Dongri to Dubai.
Yes. Yes.
Now, let me tell you, if this man had not messed up his life and got involved with the ISI of Pakistan in the '93 blast case, he would have come back to India and lived a great life of a great businessman. In my this report on the growth of underworld in Bombay City, which I wrote in 1994, I had at that time said that the turnover from organized crime in Mumbai City at that time was to the tune of about 5,000 crores. Today it must be a lot more.
6.2 billion.
And as Sheila has written that he is a man who figures in the Forbes list in 2011, and he was the 57th most important person on the earth, most powerful man on earth, Dawood Ibrahim, and a man of $6.7 billion in 2011. Now, if he had not messed up his life with ISI of Pakistan and had not migrated to Pakistan, he would have surely come back here, faced the law, got some punishment, and settled down in life, like the American Sicilian mafios. You have made a mention of this Mario Puzo's book, The Godfather. He has written another book, The Last Dawn, by the same author, Mario Puzo, in which he calls a family gathering on the eve of his two grandsons are being christened, and then the whole family is called, and all his gang leaders from various parts of America, they are called, and then he is now becoming old, and then he calls his children and says, now look, I have a plan. I think now it's time when I should be slowly and slowly retiring. So he tells his elder son, Giorgio, he says, you shall go to the Wharton School of Business. The son looks at him and says, Wharton School of Business? He said, and you will learn all the intricacies of stealing money while being within the system. You see, he tells his son, the second son, who was the mayor of the place where he was living, he says, you will go to Las Vegas and take over our hotel industry. And you will continue to with the family. Family means the gang, the entire. The family is Hammer. And the third son he calls and he says, you shall take over as the mayor of this city and take all the contracts of road building and other government buildings and this, that and all that. You will be a rich man and you will continue to supply the soldiers to the family. Soldiers means the hitmen and all that. And then he says, now when these two grandchildren grow, I don't want them to get into this risky business of running gangs. We have now earned enough money. We must settle down to a life of respect. All the money that we have got, we must now become. Now we should get out of all this. So he says, I want that all of you slowly and slowly come out of this, settle down and be respectable people in the society with all your wealth and enjoy it. Dawood Ibrahim could have done that if he had really not got involved in the 93 blast case and got the tag of a terrorist. Basically, he's a gangster who by definition became a terrorist. And you have focused a lot on his activities, and naturally, because today he is declared as one of the most dangerous terrorists in the world and being wanted by, declared as a terrorist, international terrorist by America and by the United Nations, and we are not able to get him. Now that's another story. But what you have done is a fascinating story, Sheila Rawal, you have written in a very beautiful style, as Ms. Shobha Dey has said. I must compliment you that you have attempted this. Many people write on this crime, the crime thrillers. It's such a fascinating, everybody, I mean, you can imagine how many people must have written on this. Hussain Jaidi wrote 2 books, The Black Friday, and a very successful movie was made, and he wrote this Dongri 2, Dubai. I read another book. Some people have written fictions also. Some people have written memoirs. Sheila has written her own experiences. Oswald Pereira has written a book. He was a Bombay journalist who is now based in Delhi. He says Beyond the Press Room. newsroom, in which he has talked about the unholy alliance between the media, the press, the police, the politicians, and the gangsters, the underworld. And it's a fact of life. You see, otherwise Bombay has gone through hell. I need not go into this because the time will not permit. So people, everybody is fascinated, and anybody and everybody who has something to do with crime management or covering crime beat feels like putting his or her experiences in a book form, and it makes an interesting reading. Many films have been made in contemporary India, and I think they are some of those, the latest being Dabangg. And the best film that I saw, I think, of course, after that Sholay, was this Amir Khan's movie where is Sarfaroz. Sarfaroz. Beautiful movie. So crime is a very fascinating story. It makes a good reading, and those who have actually handled the crime, whether police officers or journalists, and they narrate their own experiences, it comes first hand and makes a very good reading. I am sure it will be a very popular book. But a little analysis of the trend of this incidents you have covered and all this, but the trend of how Bombay went through the trauma. The 90s was a very bad period in the history of Mumbai city. I mean, Sheila has written about how this gang warfare began in Mumbai city. It began with the killing of Shabir, Dawood Ibrahim's elder brother, way back in 1981. He was shot dead in Prabhadevi petrol pump, and then that led to further killings of Amir Zada, and then the killing of Chota Rajan Nair or something. So in the court premises, and the warfare between the Pathan gangs and the Kokani gangs, that is Dawood Ibrahim, ultimately leading to the killings of elimination of Karim Lala's entire family. Samad Khan was killed, and Samad Khan's father Rahim Lala, he was killed, and then he had to run away to Dubai, and then he became an international figure in the crime. Today the crime has become a mind-boggling thing. It's not easy for everybody and everybody to comprehend how this operates gang. It's a constant process of evolution. We are always one step or two steps behind the gangs. When we fight with these gangsters, they have the use of the latest technology, and they are the first users of the technology. We only know. I remember when I was investigating the 1993 blast case, RDX was used. The first time I heard the name of RDX was in 93. And we recovered some, these landings were done in the Sekhadi and other coastal areas of Raigad district. And we found some spindles, and somebody says, this is a rocket launcher. Some very experienced officers said. So we were very, very novice. We didn't know all these things. When Mr. Ramdas Naik, the BJP president, was shot dead in Mumbai in 1993, and the message went, we didn't know how to handle this mobile telephones. We didn't have the mobile telephones. Now mobile telephone, and we found it very difficult to catch these gangs. But today the mobile phone has become a very easy method. It actually helps us in investigation. And now satellite phones. Technology is being used in a big way. 2611, you all have read and you all have heard of how the handlers and these actual foot soldiers were. It's a very constant challenge. Mumbai city is an ideal fertile ground for underworld activities. The organized crime thrives in a city which has business, because it's a business by itself. Underworld activities, the mafia gang activities, is a business in itself, and therefore any city which has business will always have this problem. The police have to be ready, the public has to be ready, courts must also cooperate. I mean, we had the laws, we didn't have any laws which really supported us. So we had Tada, and then Tada became such a controversial law. People said it's being misused, it is this, that and all that, and in 1995 Tada was dropped. And then suddenly after the Tada was dropped, if I give me 5 more minutes, 1991, there were only 2 killings by the police. gangs had killed 23 persons. And then as Tada came, the police applied the pressure, lot of gangsters were arrested, sent to jails, and some encounters and all that happened. It came under control. 95 the Tada lapsed, and again the gang activities shot up. And between 95 to 1999, there were hell of a lot of killings. In those period of 4 or 5 years, there were nearly 500 killings in the streets of Mumbai by the gangsters, and about 370 odd killings by police in encounters. Imagine about 800-900 or about 1,000 people died in the streets of Bombay in a matter of 4 or 5 years. And then Makoka Act was enacted and gave us some instrument to deal with this underworld phenomenon. We started arresting these people and the police engaged them. In 1998, 101 people were shot dead by these underworld gangsters. One was shot dead, Mr. Bharat Shah, was shot dead in front of the police commissioner's office on the footpath. That is the year when lots of Shiv Sena leaders and lots of Datta Samant, ex-member of parliament, and so many people, lots of builders and underworld. I was working in CID of Maharashtra and posted in Pune. I got calls from my friends who were in the business saying my daughter's wedding is being celebrated, and can we hold this the reception at the one of the Maidans on the Marine Drive? I said, it is your daughter, your money, why are you asking? He said, no, I am getting threats. That was the scenario. And then when the Makoka Act came, 1998, 101 people were shot dead by the underworld. The police applied the pressure and both arresting under Makoka and engaging them in encounters, and that's how then ultimately things came under control. Luckily, we are in a better position today. But let me tell you, if you relax your pressure, as I said, Mumbai is a very fertile ground. You will have trouble once again. I know the police officers are doing a remarkable job. They are doing their best to control with little support from the media and the judiciary. I am sure the police can ensure safety and security of all the citizens. I once again compliment Ms. Sheila Rawal and wish her all the success. I hope she will come up with the next book also. And thank you very much for your time.